Did you know that you can lose over 50% of your kidney function without even noticing it? No pain, no warning, nothing. And the crazy thing is, this process starts for every human being from the age of 30. It happens creeping, silent, and unnoticed. Because from that point on, the filtration capacity of the kidneys decreases by approximately 1% in every person. And very few people know this. Are you constantly tired? Do you have swollen ankles? Or do you suffer from high blood pressure? All of that can be the kidney. But unfortunately, the kidney remains silent for a long time, and we don't notice anything. In this video, we will talk about what you can do so that your kidneys stay fit for as long as possible, and how you can recognize kidney problems even before a noticeable blood test. Too little drinking, stress, or medication. That is the real poison for our kidneys. Only when half of the so-called functional reserve capacity of the kidney is used up do changes then become measurable in the laboratory. And even then, the symptoms associated with the kidney do not express themselves so dramatically. Many affected people then say, "I get tired faster. It's probably just stress or age." But exactly here lies the problem. The kidney does not report in at the beginning with pain, but rather with such quiet, inconspicuous symptoms. And here is where the mistake happens. Most people also believe that the kidney is simply responsible for the production of this urine. The kidney is an excretory organ. That is what we are taught. But that is wrong because the kidney has many more tasks in the organism, and we will take a closer look at those in a moment. The kidney is primarily a so-called reabsorption organ, and less of a detoxification or excretory organ. And the kidney is really brilliantly constructed. Imagine, each kidney has about 1 million tiny working units. These are the so-called nephrons, and each of them is like a small mini sewage treatment plant. First, your blood is pressed through these nephrons under pressure, similar to a food mill, and in the process, large amounts of so-called primary urine are produced. This is a super diluted urine. That is roughly how you can imagine it. It contains a lot of water, also contains minerals, sugar, as well as amino acids and many substances from the blood. In total, the kidney produces 180 liters of primary urine per day. That is about a whole bathtub full. And now comes the decisive trick: reabsorption. From these 180 liters, the kidney takes back about 99 or over 99%. So water, minerals, glucose, protein building blocks, all of that is sorted like in a high-performance recycling plant. And what we then excrete is about 1.5 to 2 liters of urine. So a concentrate of all this. That is how you can imagine it. And with this, the kidney regulates our blood pressure, our fluid balance, and whether we have enough minerals, etc., available for our cells. Then comes the last step, and it becomes clear why the kidney is also a kind of excretory or detoxification organ. There are the so-called substances mandatory for urinary excretion. These are substances that the body must get rid of via the urine. You know, 1 or 2 prominent representatives, like urea, for example, which is produced during protein digestion, or also phosphate, certain acids, certain metabolic residues, and then also medications are partly excreted this way. But that was not all. The kidney is closely connected to larger regulatory systems of the body. For example, the electrolyte balance, the acid-base balance, and beyond that, the kidney is also hormonally active, meaning it produces erythropoietin. We need that for the formation of red blood cells. And what very few people know is that the active form of vitamin D, which is crucial for muscle function, bone function, and so on, in the immune system, is also basically converted or activated in the kidney. When kidney function declines, it is not only this detoxification branch and this reabsorption branch that get out of balance, but we have several central control circuits that are affected here virtually simultaneously. And one of the most common warning signs, which you might notice after a long flight or after sweating a lot, is constant fatigue and exhaustion. Sleep then no longer brings any real recovery. This is because metabolic products accumulate in the blood that should actually have been excreted. The cells receive fewer nutrients as a result, and this form of fatigue is then often misinterpreted as stress or burnout. Then we have the very typical swollen ankles in the evening or swollen eyelids in the morning. These are classic, often overlooked kidney warning signs. If the kidney can no longer finely regulate salt and water, the fluid remains in the tissue, and it is typical that a small dent might remain after pressure. This is a clear sign that the regulation is no longer working well. Perhaps you know this. If you ate a high-salt meal the night before, it seems to you the next morning that you feel bloated. Then we have frequent urination, especially at night. Going to the toilet several times at night without having drunk much in the evening is not a normal phenomenon of aging. This shows that the kidney can often no longer concentrate the urine sufficiently. This filter function decreases over the course of life. The GFR, this value, will deteriorate over the course of our lives. This blood value and the water is simply lost faster here. The body naturally tries to compensate for it at night. And yes, many people just accept it for years without even considering that they should just see a doctor and check their kidney values. And if you think, oh, I know that, then definitely stay tuned, because there is more information coming to help you with the kidney, especially how to improve all of this again. Then we have another thing. For many bodybuilders, there is a foam party in the toilet every day. That means some protein shakes, endless chicken breast, protein bars, whatever. And the kidney then runs at full speed, and the urine foams. And then the guys are suddenly surprised when they have high blood pressure at 45, and their kidney values are in the basement. So if the urine foams permanently, similar to beer foam, it is not about the big bubbles, but similar to beer foam that stays in the toilet for a long time, then you should definitely take a closer look. Often, there is a loss of protein behind this. This can happen, on the one hand, if you eat too much protein, but it can also happen if the kidney gets worse. Why? The filter units then become permeable, and the protein is no longer reabsorbed, but simply gets into the urine more. Over 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily brings no additional benefit for muscle building anyway. It just brings more work for the kidney. What else can happen? Itching without a visible skin rash. Such a very strange, diffuse itching, especially all over the body, and especially in the evening or at night, without seeing anything on the skin, is rarely associated with the kidneys. But if these substances mandatory for urinary excretion can no longer be excreted, the body tries to sweat them out through the skin. And here it is primarily about urea and phosphate. Phosphate is often the strongest trigger of itching. The diseased kidneys can then no longer properly excrete excess phosphate, for example, from dairy products, meat, and so on. And the phosphate then combines with calcium, and then there are these tiny calcium phosphate crystals that itch like hell. If the kidney can no longer remove this substance, then it goes to dialysis to blood washing. Then we wash these substances out of the blood. Another important excretory organ is, of course, the intestine. But back to a widespread common problem. That is high blood pressure. If the blood pressure rises creeping up, and there is no other cause, or if it responds poorly to medication, then one should always think of the kidney, because the kidney controls blood pressure through a very fine interplay of hormones, salt, and water. And if this system gets out of balance, the blood pressure often rises slowly and unnoticed for a long time. And the doctors naturally think of it, but you as a patient or as someone affected should have it on your radar. High blood pressure can also be kidney related. And then we have loss of appetite or quick nausea. When the appetite wanes, when you get full faster, when you feel nausea, it is often attributed to the stomach. But actually, disturbed electrolyte or blood sugar regulation issues, over-acidification, or also increased uric acid can play a role. So a weakened kidney can also play a part here. Then we have a topic that many women suffer from: freezing, cold feet, hands, and so on. This is hardly ever associated with the kidney. But be careful if it is also in connection with nighttime urination or water retention. Here too, please think of the kidney, and then changes in the skin, eyes, and breath can also show. An ashen, gray-brown skin color, or also yellowish whites of the eyes, can then be early indications of a disturbed detoxification performance. Why? The metabolic products then deposit increasingly in the tissue. And for some, this very characteristic, striking, ammonia-like, urine-like breath odor is added. The uremic breath. Once smelled, you will guaranteed never forget it again. And now it is about another very, very exciting topic. Now it is about inner insecurity, about fear and low stress resistance. Because these warning signs are particularly unknown, many people feel overwhelmed faster, internally restless, or less stable than before. And that is then often explained purely psychologically. But what very few people know is that the kidney is closely connected to our stress axis, to hormone regulation, and also to the nervous system. And that is not esotericism at all, but hard-hitting physiology. The kidney is a hormonal command center. Again, I am not talking about the adrenal gland, but about the kidney. The most important link between the kidney and stress is the so-called renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. This means that if our kidney comes under pressure, if it no longer works really well, for example through a kidney pelvis infection, through wrong nutrition, overload, whatever, then it floods the body with renin. And that ensures that another substance is produced in the blood, angiotensin II. And angiotensin II is one of the strongest stress hormones ever. Among other things, that ensures that we have good blood pressure when we come under stress. It constricts the blood vessels. That means the blood pressure rises. It also acts directly in the brain. That means it triggers the fear center there and the release of noradrenaline. So the whole thing is part of our stress reaction. And that then activates the so-called sympathetic nervous system. And that then sabotages our serotonin, the happiness hormone production in the brain. Furthermore, kidney problems almost always lead to a vitamin D deficiency, which in turn can directly promote depressive moods and lack of drive. Because vitamin D is converted into its active form mainly in the kidney, that means vitamin D is then essential again for the production of happiness hormones, of dopamine. You know that vitamin D deficiency is very, very often associated with winter depression. And do you know what fascinates me most about it? The ancient Chinese doctors, 2,000, 3,000 years before us, already observed all of this, without a lab, without microscopy, and so on. Because in traditional Chinese medicine, the kidney stands not only for detoxification, but for inner stability and life force. If it is weakened, as the old texts describe it, then fear comes, then insecurity comes, then cold feet come. And the Chinese doctors back then recognized that purely through observation. And today we can understand and explain that physiologically and biochemically why that is so. But back then, the precision of the observation was just really great. When the kidney ages, it is a creeping process. That means all the mentioned warning signs alone do not prove kidney disease. But if several join together, then it is no coincidence, but you simply have to look. As I said, only when 50–60% of the reserve capacity is used up do the changes first become visible, measurable, and so on. So these early warning signs are therefore simply so important before the lab results. What are the most important things so that you protect your kidney and do not strain it excessively? First, drink sufficiently and regularly. So do not drink something in the morning and then nothing for 8 hours. But it is about regularity, because the kidney naturally has to do its job regularly, 24 hours a day. Then use salt consciously. So do not salt too much. Too much salt makes high blood pressure. It is naturally different if you go to the sauna regularly and drink 4 liters of water every day. But very few people will do that. Therefore, really use salt consciously. Then make sure that you do not eat too much protein, especially not over these 3 grams per kilogram of body weight. Very few viewers will come into this range. This is really only about the bodybuilders who eat so much protein that they overstrain the kidney. Then keep your blood pressure in the normal range. And that is probably one of the most important tips. The kidney consists of millions of tiny blood vessels in these nephrons. And if the blood pressure is too high, then the blood pressure literally hammers against these fine filters. So the fine filters, they get broken. They scar after a time. And we know a kidney-friendly blood pressure should ideally be below 130/80. Then we have diabetes. Eat really little sugar, few simple carbohydrates. Keep your long-term sugar values stable. That too attacks these small blood vessels. That too destroys this filter function. That is why so many diabetics then get kidney problems. And make sure that you simply avoid phosphate like the devil avoids holy water. Artificial phosphate is often added in fast food, processed cheese, ready-made baked goods, and whatever. So here we are again at the topic of avoiding processed foods and cooking for yourself. And then think carefully if you have to take medication for a long time, especially the NSAIDs, the painkillers. They often go to the kidney. You always have the choice. Do I take a medication that goes to the liver or to the kidney? Sure, but if you already have a pre-damaged kidney, then talk to your doctor about what the risks are for my kidney. And take stress seriously, because it acts directly on kidney regulation. Also, keep feet and kidneys warm. Why? The immune system takes a break in local cold. Every motorcyclist wears his kidney belt. He will learn his lesson. So local cold, that does not do us any good there at all. And then very importantly, make sure that you lower your acid load. That means an alkaline diet. The kidney simply has to excrete every milligram of excess acid from the metabolism. And the more acid that is produced, also again through malnutrition, the harder the kidney has to work at the end of the day. No fear of coffee. 2–3 cups of coffee per day. No problem at all for the kidney. According to studies, rather kidney protective. So more fruit, more vegetables, and so on. That then acts alkaline in the body, and you relieve the kidney immediately. And very, very important for healthy kidneys is potassium-rich fruit, potassium-rich vegetables, and so on. No problem at all. Rather, lowers blood pressure. Only if the kidneys are broken do you have to avoid potassium. Many questions will come again in the comments. Do I have to avoid potassium? Your doctor will tell you that. So it first needs a certain degree of kidney disease for you to have to avoid potassium. And those are so very few people have to do it. It is really only the most severely ill kidney patients. If this exploration of the silent signals of your kidneys has changed the way you look at your health, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. We are dedicated to uncovering the biological truths and history that often remain hidden beneath the surface. Cultivate your future health today. The next treasure of medical insight will be opened soon.